Okay, in the last video, I left you off on looking at cultures and doing a little bit of judgment and what happens when our initial thought of judging another culture. We say that might be a little ethnocentric or thinking that we're better than someone else, but that happens through the mechanism of taboo. And taboo is something that is a cultural trait or activity that one culture does that everyone else really looks down on or finds unacceptable. The absolute best example of this is eating cats and dogs. There are some countries that just absolutely cannot fathom the idea that someone would eat a dog. It's insane to them. That's us, right? There are other countries that think it's insane to eat a cow. And this taboo or this thing that we've decided is wrong often fuels our judgment in other cultures. So even though, and we're going to watch a video on taboos, something might be taboo in our culture, it's completely normal in another culture. And um, I think what I'm going to have you do, well, we'll move on. So we need to move on to the notes. You may be able to watch a video on taboo today. Otherwise, we'll do it next week when I'm back, or I'll be back tomorrow. So we need to keep going with our notes. So even though we talked about cultural traits, we need to talk about cultural regions. And cultural regions were in your last online video, so I will shut up about it. There are different cultural regions. They are different across the place. Culture moves in different ways, and that's what we're looking at today. We're looking at how culture changes and how culture moves. What I would like you to do is pause, wait for your partner to pause and look at you, make eye contact so everyone knows you're in the right spot. I want you to take 60 seconds and talk about who is in charge of how culture is changing. Who are the deciders? Who are the people that change culture? Did you take 60 seconds? Did you actually talk about it? Or are you just watching this video? I'm serious, talk about it. Is it you? Is it me? Is it people with money? Who knows? I will tell you this though. This is legit how people used to dress in the 90s. And this is legit how people used to dress when I was in high school. It's pretty awesome. We looked great. So things are always changing. Things are always moving. That is the one true thing about society. Oop. But change always starts with something that is called a cultural innovation. Something that is random is an invention. An invention is just something that some guy invented. But if other people catch on and it changes the way they do things, it is called a cultural innovation. And that's essentially inventing or creating a new cultural trait. The iPod, a huge cultural innovation. Someone invented it and boom, it spread like wildfire. Me inventing a new way to put tinfoil on tongs so it looks like a fun mustache, that is not a good cultural innovation. That is just me inventing something. So they are often useful ideas. Useful ideas are accepted and adopted into culture. And so what I'd like you to do is take a list. You're going to need this list, by the way, for tomorrow, and name as many cultural innovations, new traits, as you can in American culture in the last 5 years. Take 2 minutes, just 3 to 4. You can talk to your partner, find 4. And when you're done with that list, which I'm sure was pretty easy, pause. If don't pause, pause and do it. If you've already done it, I bet it was pretty easy, and I bet you have lots of stuff that's changed in the last few years. But if you look back in the last 20 years, what has changed? And I bet you the answer is a much, much shorter list because cultural innovations are things that last. So all the things you're looking at, great example, fidget spinners, not a cultural innovation. They just aren't. They're not sticking around. They were an invention. They looked like they were going to be a cultural innovation, but they weren't. And culture spreads from things that are called hearths, not hearts, but hearths. You should think of a node, like a cultural or like a nodal region, and it is the beginning where an innovation starts from. There have been classic nodes, like the first caveman to invent fire. Boom, that took off. Great. Now, however, things used to change and move really slowly. It often takes advantage of tech or finance support for acceptance. Like technology helps spread acceptance. And what you should definitely write down um, is that things have changed. Nodes used to literally be a physical place where something was, and now you guys get all your information and things from the internet. So, um, where do you think the three cultural hearths are today? What are the places that are driving the three? Or sorry, what are the three places that are driving culture the most? Take a guess. Did you guess Tokyo, Japan, New York City, the Bay Area in the United States, and also bonus, um, London, England? Because if you did, you were right, and if you did not, you were wrong. Anyway, culture spreads from cultural hearths through something called cultural diffusion. Now, this I can guarantee you is on your test, so you want to pay close attention. Cultural diffusion is the spread of a cultural innovation. And as geographers, that's boring and we don't care about that. That's sociology. But what we care about is the way it looks or the way it spreads. So, diffusion sometimes works. The first time I was in college, this was like 10 years ago now, somebody came on campus with Ugg boots, and everyone literally said, gross. Those are the nastiest things I've ever seen in my life. And then all of a sudden, there were two people wearing them, and then five, and then 10. And then I had a pair of Ugg boots, and we were all wearing Ugg boots, and it looked great. Um, when I was in high school as well, people talked like Snoop Dogg. We said for shizzle, and we were dead serious. We thought that was the next thing. So culture spreads, and it spreads across space, and that's what we care about. So what I'd like you to do is name at least two or three words that people used to use but no longer use. And then on the other side of that list, name two or three words that you use today. And I want you to circle the ones that you think are going to last. And that will be super duper lit, guys. It'll be raw. It'll be savage. I'll dab my way to success after you do this. It'll be the bomb. Take 3 minutes, write down a list on the left side, a name on the right, list on the right side. Make sure you label it well. Go for it. Did you do it? I hope you did it. You need to have done it. And I'd like you to think, where was the first place you heard this word? Because I bet some of you are going to say, like, I don't know, I just started saying it. I'm the one that made it up. I thought of dabbing. And the truth is that if you don't pay attention, you probably don't see how culture spreads. So what you want to look at is something called the diffusion model. Mm, mm, do I want to do the diffusion model with you right now? Okay, the diffusion model is what's called a normal curve. And a normal curve shows a distribution of people. So if you look here, let me show you what the actual diffusion model is. I'll let you write your notes. The diffusion model is how we see culture spreading. So you can see here that 2.5% of the population are what we call innovators. These are the people creating new cultures. After that, 13.5% are what we call early adopters, which means they're the first ones to start doing something. They are the girl who was walking down campus wearing Ugg boots. After that, you have an early majority, which is a large group of people, then a late majority, people late to the game, and then you here have laggards. This is when your teachers start dabbing. This is when, um, you know, we ruin it for you guys. These are the people who are a little too late to the game. But basically, the way it spreads to all those people looks the same every time, and it can be broken down into two types of diffusion. It can be broken into what's called relocation diffusion or expansion diffusion. I would personally do your notes side by side here so you can compare the differences. Relocation diffusion is the spread of an idea through physical movement of people across space. You're literally taking the idea somewhere and putting it somewhere else. Great examples of this, right? People moving from Mexico to California, or living in California originally, but people moving across the border and bringing with them Mexican food, Mexican culture, all sorts of things. Um, if you have an uncle who can spin plates and he moves to New York, and then all of a sudden people start spinning plates in New York, that's an example of relocation diffusion. Another word you need to know, um, is called acculturation. And this is essentially the same idea, but it's when somebody, so it's relocation diffusion, but as a result, one of the cultures changes pretty significantly. And the example in the cartoons here, obviously, is the Native American culture. We diffused our culture to the Americas, and as a result, they lost their culture. But a geographer would say that they acculturated, and that's a word you definitely need to know. The other type of diffusion is called expansion diffusion. This is the one you were probably thinking of, and this is basically the spread of one idea um, to another place in an additive way, meaning that I am in my room giving you this video, and it is spreading, the ideas are spreading to your room through a computer. There are three types of expansion diffusion. You need to know all of them, by the way. The first is hierarchical. It's a great word. You should practice saying it. Say it to your parents, yell at them. And hierarchical diffusion is the spread of an idea from one person or place of authority um, to places of less authority. That could be from the president of America telling us to do something. It could be from a popular actor or actress putting on a pair of shoes, and we think like, oh, they're so popular, I should do that too. And the best example, and this is such a weird one that you don't think of, is a city. Like New York City, people will start doing something in New York, and then everyone in California thinks, oh, how cool, I want to do that too. Or even better, Hollywood. Hollywood is up on the top of the list of hierarchies in cultural authority. So when they do something, boy, we all start doing it too. And that's hierarchical diffusion. The second type of diffusion, and you should have had this in your notes, is contagious diffusion. And that is the rapid, widespread diffusion of a trait or characteristic. Oh my God, fidget spinners. It started in one place, and it just, everyone who saw one was like, well, I need one too. I'm going to get it. This is basically what you guys are used to. This is something, the idea of something going viral, a cultural trait or idea that goes viral. Pretty easy, like a sneeze, but an idea. And the third is stimulus diffusion, which is oddly enough poorly named, but basically stimulus diffusion is when an idea spreads, but not the exact idea, just the idea of an idea. And the best example here is a car. You could go all across the world and the idea of a car has spread, but that doesn't mean cars all look the same. Even cell phones, the idea of a cell phone first came out, and there's Samsung and Nokia and blah, 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 and iPhones. They are all sort of the same thing. The underlying principle is the same, but they look a little different. You know, cars is probably the best example. That's the one I would write in my notes. And this idea that culture is spreading all the time and that it's contagious, meaning that one person has it, I'm sorry, not contagious, but additive, meaning that one person has it, then lots of people have it, is leading to a huge term that you're going to write down and define today, and we're going to go over mostly together, and that is the idea of globalization. This is a huge theme in geography, and globalization is the idea that something is becoming worldwide in scope, that there's a cultural trait that is so spread out that everybody in the world pretty much has contact with it. The best example here, McDonald's. McDonald's is everywhere. The world is becoming very similar, and that's called globalization. So what I'd like you to do, first I want you to write this down. But basically, globalization is happening very quickly as a result. It didn't used to happen. I used to invent something in my little village, and it stuck in my little village, and no one paid attention to me. This is such an important term. I cannot stress it enough. Globalization is happening as a result of improved mass communication, transportation, planes, phones, etc. Ideas can spread faster and farther than they ever could before. And that idea that the world is shrinking is what was in your videos last night, right? The globe is shrinking and everyone's getting closer, and our ideas are spreading faster. We're increasing our interconnections with each other. That's called space-time compression. Beam me up, Scotty. Memorize this definition. I will give you no more hints, but memorize this definition. Space-time compression is the reduction in time that it takes for one thing to reach another thing compared to the past. The best example is it used to take you almost a year to walk from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then someone invented a horse. Nope, that's not how horses work, but whatever. They invented riding a horse. And then someone had a wagon, and they could move more ideas faster. And then someone had the Transcontinental Railroad happen, and you could move those ideas faster and faster and faster. Now we have airplanes. Now we can fly there in less than 5 hours. So if I have an idea, I can go tell my cousin Fred in New York in 5 hours. And then all of a sudden, we have networks. And these are communications beyond movement. So we can talk to each other instantly. And that did not used to be a thing. And so we have these networks, which are communication chains or hubs. Essentially, a network is a group of people or places that can communicate with each other. And space-time compression means that those networks have become faster and faster and faster, so that the world feels smaller and smaller and smaller. So if I ever ask you to define space-time compression, you are definitely going to say the world is getting smaller. And then you are going to explain that space-time compression is the idea that even though the Earth stays the exact same size, movements, culture, and other things diffuse more rapidly because of the reduction in time it now takes for everything to reach each other. Space-time compression. You got it? You can do this? This is where I'm going to leave you. Maybe. I might look at this video. No, we're not going to watch that video. That's just globalization. We will go over globalization in your online lecture tonight. And then we'll talk about development. So heads up for your online lecture. Your instructions should be with your sub. I think I've just got you studying for the test tomorrow, the rest of the period. I really, 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 really need you guys, to do well on that. Excellent. Goodbye.